Welcome all Title Tribe members and future Title Tribe members. This is Friday Night Roundtable, NFL Roundtable, where we are discussing roundtable playoff games this week and everything. And this is your Frito Bandito with the Toilets Title Network. I want to go roundtable. We'll finish with the star of the cast today. George, how are you doing today, sir?
Sir, I am absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to doing this roundtable. Looking forward to speaking with our special guest and really just chatting it up, talking about some football.
Yes. Look, exciting weekend and stuff like that. It was an exciting weekend last weekend, which we'll touch a little bit here on with some of the topics that we have. But Justin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. I've got a little bit of a sore throat. I had to do an asthma test today because evidently at 40 plus years old, we're not going to give the exact number, but definitely younger than George. And once you get to a certain age, like, you can still develop asthma. I never thought that was even possible, but here we are. But I'm going to battle through it, and we're going to have a great show because we have a great guest. We've got some great content. We've got the playoffs going on. Like, this is an NFL football right here, guys.
It is. And right below Mr. Thomas over there, we got David.
You almost said Dennis again.
I almost did.
He almost did.
Don't worry, we'll get it together. That, like I said, last name being Dennis, first name David, they just kind of meld into Dennis. I answer to Dennis, honestly, sometimes. So I'm doing great. I'm here. I'm ready to roll for another great weekend of playoff football. Hopefully it's as electric as last weekend's.
Yes. And what we've all been waiting for and stuff. I got my man right below me and everything. I'm sure everybody knows who the gentleman is right here, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Mr. Jim, introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, everyone. Jim Coventry here with RotoWire, SiriusXM, a fantasy channel on the weekends. It's glad to be here. Excited to hang out with the gang, and we're going to have some fun tonight.
Jim, while we got you on and stuff like that, go ahead and promote your little thing you got going on.
Yes, on the Super Bowl week, the Monday and Tuesday prior to the game, we're doing a marathon. It'll be Monday during the day and Tuesday in the evening. We're going to have 58 fantasy analysts for Super Bowl 58. Short spots. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl, talk about what they have going on. You're not going to want to miss that. You'll find that information pinned to my X profile at Jim Coventry NFL in the next week or so. Don't want to pitch this on the show we do, but don't want to put it on X too soon because people will forget about it. But we'll start pitching that in about a week. George is going to be on there. Very excited to have him on there. It is going to be quite the spectacle.
Absolutely honored to be joining that list of people you got going. It's an amazing list.
You fit right on it perfectly.
Yeah, George, I was going to say, you're an amazing person, George. Come on, man.
Jim, I need to get you on more often. I've gotten more compliments in the last 3.5 minutes from this group than I've gotten in the last 2 years from this group. So I need to put you on the payroll and get you on here more often because I'm enjoying these compliments right now.
Well, I love that.
So with that being said, everybody that's in the chat, I appreciate you guys all being here. If you haven't had the opportunity, once you watch this video, hey, hit the like, subscribe button, follow us, and just, help us move along within this industry. And hey, I'm striving to be the man right below me and everything. Jim, we were talking in earlier in a DM, and he graciously gave his notes. And man, I know what the next 10 levels I have to go to get to this man's status and everything. Because Jim, those notes were on point.
It's fun to do the notes. 34 pages for the 4 games this weekend. I try to give numbers for those who like numbers to see how defenses and players stack up. But then I study the game. And so then I give narratives where if I'm coaching the team, what I would do, then I give trends and how they match up team to team. Try to give people a well-rounded opportunity to make their own decision because you all know football. You're very good at everybody out in the audience. You know your football. Sometimes you just want a little extra information to think about a little more. So my job is to give you everything I can and then allow you to make your best decision because you know your stuff.
Nice. I appreciate it very much. So let's go ahead and jump in to these divisional weekend schedules. So Saturday games, we're going to go ahead and start out with the Houston Texans versus the Baltimore Ravens playing at 4:30 this weekend and everything. Look, the Texans are led by rookie sensation C.J. Stroud at QB. Tough matchup versus a tough, stout defense. we'll kind of talk about that based off of week one matchup that they had. Ravens have been knocking off top teams going into the playoffs. With the bye this past week, are they going to continue the dominance? Texans are the game that they played was Texans 25. Well, actually, it was Ravens 25-9. Will they continue the dominance? I also want to say that the Ravens is favored 9.5, and the over and under is 43.5. Jim, I'm going to start with you, sir. Give me your analysis of the game and what you think is going to happen here.
So, first of all, I do think that we have a little bit of a rosy impression of the Texans, rightfully so. They're great for football. They're wonderful. We watched them play Cleveland last week, and we saw them shred this great defense. I think the mistake a lot of people are going to make is saying, well, they shredded Cleveland, they're going to shred Baltimore. It's a completely different animal. Cleveland plays one of the highest rates of man coverage in the league. They don't give you any tricks. So basically, C.J. Stroud was actually bad against man all year, but Bobby Slowick, you watch the game. There were guys running wide open all over the field. He had man beaters. They were consistently winning those. Stroud played great, but they were easy throws, and he missed Nico Collins on an easy 60-yard touchdown as well. Dalton Schultz dropped another longer pass. There was a lot on the table. This is a completely different beast playing Baltimore. It's the antithesis. First of all, this is a game where they're actually going to miss Tank Dell and actually Noah Brown. They're going to miss them. They're going to see a lot of zone. Now, Marlon Humphrey, their corner is out, but it's minimized because of the zone coverage. They're going to cloud the side of the field with Nico Collins. The other thing is the Ravens play some of the lightest boxes in the league. They allow you to run the football. The problem is Devin Singletary puts up numbers. He's not a sustaining runner. He's not moving the chains. He'll go to 2, a 3, a 1, and then a 15. That doesn't help you to move the chains. And the other problem is, look, C.J. Stroud is phenomenal. No shade on him. But he's going to see a lot of post-snap movement, and he's not going to know where the pressure is coming with simulated pressures. It's just going to be a whole lot of confusion, and Nico Collins is going to be the mark. Now the other guys have to win. That's where it becomes problematic.
All right. Nice. I appreciate that. Justin, does with Noah Brown not being out and stuff like that, John Mechie last week and everything, he had some opportunities. Didn't put any yards up or anything like that, but had opportunity. Do you look for him to maybe step into with Noah Brown being out?
I mean, Mechie is definitely a great talent if he can rope it in. Like he's still young. He hasn't had a lot of time on the field because of the issues last season, but he's slowly getting back out on the field and slowly making a name for himself. He had a great offseason. He had a great camp. Everybody had higher expectations of him, but we still didn't know who that number one was going to be. It's clearly not him, right? So just to answer your question, no. I don't think that any of the wide receivers from the wide receiver 2 down is going to have much of a game at all this week, because that Baltimore defense has been able to stay relatively healthy all season. They've been able to dominate for the most part just about every game. The over-under on this game at 43.5. In my mind, the reason why it's somewhat lower than what you might expect with these two offenses is because of that Baltimore defense. Houston's defense has performed really well in spots, but I don't think that they can keep up with Baltimore at this point. This is a really young Houston team. I'm obviously a noted Colts fan, but I've also been on this Houston bandwagon the last several weeks, wanting them to win. Like I love the story, just like Jim was saying, it's going to be a storyline thing all the way up to kickoff. That we all want to see this happen, for Stroud and for the entire team, really. But it's at a certain point, Cinderella has to get home from the ball, and I think that this weekend, unfortunately, is going to be that weekend. Even though I'm going to be pulling for the story, Baltimore's going to dominate this game.
All right, David. In the first matchup, the defenses actually came out to play and everything. As much as the score would seem to think, it was a close game until the third quarter. Both defenses, I want to say, one had 4 sacks and the other had 5. What do you think is going to happen with Lamar this week against the Houston Texans defense? Because if I remember correctly, they're the ones that had the 5 sacks in the first matchup.
Yeah, I don't care about that first matchup. That was so long ago. It may as well have been, ancient history. This is the playoffs. This is the end of the season. That's so far gone. It doesn't even matter anymore. From a betting perspective, I'm staying away from the spread on this game, mainly because I would go with my heart and say Texans on the money line because, as you can see, I'm a Steelers fan. Hate the Ravens, and I'll probably sprinkle a little bit on the Texans money line just for shits and giggles. I'm hitting the over. I think that regardless of the defenses in this game, the way that they've both been playing, the Texans offense, if the Texans are going to win this game, they're going to have to score. And if the Ravens win this game, it could very well be that they hit that over by themselves. We just saw what they've done. Sorry, George, to the Dolphins, to, all these other top teams. They're scoring 40, 50 points a game against these top teams. So I'm hitting the over. That's my smash for it. I also think that the Texans have a chance with Noah Brown out and, obviously missing my man Tank Dell. It's going to come down to Dalton Schultz over the middle, getting open in the zone. That's going to be the key for them.
George.
Yeah, so it's almost midnight. When the clock strikes midnight, Cinderella story ends. It's a fantastic story, not just for the Texans really, but for the NFL. You think about it going way back, even before when these two teams played earlier in the year, but in the preseason. If I would have sat here and told you that the Texans were not only going to make the playoffs, but they were going to win in the first round and make the second round of the playoffs, you'd have looked at me like I was doing some sort of drugs. Like nobody, and I mean literally nobody, had the Texans winning more than 5 games this year. Never mind making the playoffs. And here they are in the second round up against the Baltimore Ravens. It's a great story, but man, this story is about to come to an end. The way that the Baltimore Ravens have been playing, the way Lamar Jackson's been playing, the way that they've learned this offense. David mentioned it earlier, like the first time these two teams played was so long ago. They were still learning the offense when they met the first time. Like it's a brand new offense that was getting installed. It's a brand new defense under DeMeco Ryans for Houston, but this is just the most complete team. Well, I'll say the second most complete team in the entire NFL. I still think the 49ers are the most complete team top to bottom, but the Ravens are right there with them. And I can't bet against Baltimore in Baltimore this week. It's not going to be pretty. They're going to hit the over by themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore scores over 35 points.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into the next. Oh, go ahead, David.
I'll let you know, George. I have it on a podcast that I did live from the Expo that I said the Texans were going to surprise everybody. I did not have it based on the offense. I had it based on DeMeco Ryans getting that defense and then being a tough out. But I specifically said I thought that they could double their win total. I didn't say they were going to make the playoffs, but I did say that they were going to get the 6 wins this year. So somebody,
I want to meet the guy that said that they had the Texans going to the playoffs. I want to meet
I need to see evidence of it.
I had them winning 2 games.
I think DeMeco Ryans on record is saying they make the playoffs.
That's possible.
There you go.
All right, we got our second game on Saturday. It's the Green Bay Packers at the San Francisco 49ers. Once again, the Packers are a scary young team ready for another big win in the playoffs. Is this an upset in the making? And are the 49ers well rested? And CMC, is he ready to prove he is the cornerstone of this franchise and not Purdy? 49ers favored by 9.5. Over and under is 50.5. Jim, once again, man, give me your intel.
I don't want to count out the Packers because offensively, with Aaron Jones rolling, they can make some noise. They can make the 49ers uncomfortable. Teams have scored points against them. Ultimately, Eric Armstead being back on the interior line, he missed 5 games. That's one difference between him and then remember the trade deadline, they got Chase Young. So the thing is, they have 4 very good defensive linemen. They could create pressure. With those 4, the offensive line has so much on their plate. What that's done in the games, they've all 4 been healthy. That allows your linebackers, and I hope Dre Greenlaw plays. He had a limited practice. We're hoping he plays. But him, Fred Warner, even Oren Burks, it frees them up to do so much more and create chaos. So I think that the running game, as much as I love Aaron Jones, I don't think it's going to get rolling, and it's going to cause them to be in more passing downs than they hope. And the problem is the Packers are great in pass pro, but they have two weaknesses. Their center is the worst, Josh Myers, and then their guard, John Runyon. He's a little bit better. But the problem is when you have four defensive linemen who all crush, you can't slide your protections inside because you can't let Nick Bosa and Chase Young roam free. So they're going to be able to pressure that middle on those obvious passing downs. On the other side, look, give the Packers credit for what they did to Dallas. Ultimately, Dallas is a one-dimensional team. They gave Pollard 15 carries a game, but he can't run. Bass said earlier, sustaining running game. He can't sustain the run. And they were a middle-of-the-field passing team. Well, Green Bay, playoff football, they took it away, beat us elsewhere, and Dallas said, well, here's the problem. They can't defend the deep pass, Green Bay's defense. They can't defend the middle. And if they sell out to do that, you got Brandon Ayuk, you've got the perimeter, Christian McCaffrey. There are just way too many weapons. So even if the Packers come up on offense and do well, I just don't see a world where they could keep up on the scoreboard with the Niners against Joe Barry's defense.
Justin.
Yeah, so friend of the show, Shay Ramsaholic here says that CMC will get his. San Francisco is 2-4 when Purdy throws one interception. I can see Green Bay getting a turnover here. Imagine that, the Rams fan calling for the 49ers to lose. But I love Shay. Shay's a smart man, so we have to throw up the comment and talk about it a little bit. But, hey, listen, the biggest thing that I'm worried about is quarterback like Purdy, who's already kind of not necessarily the greatest quarterback in the league, but has been able to play really well considering the offense around him that makes him look much better than he is. I'm not trying to down the guy, but he's not one of the top quarterbacks, right? So now he's had 2 weeks off. We got to remember, he didn't just have the bye week. He also had the last week of the regular season off as well. He's been off for 2 weeks to prepare for this game and to rest up. But he's also been off for 2 weeks. And we've seen a lot of really good quarterbacks in history that have taken that time off that have come out rusty. Now, that offense around him, the 49ers offense, can still make him look good even if he has a mediocre game. I think that even a mediocre game is enough to win this game with Purdy. But if he comes out just flat out bad, and like Ramsaholic says here, like Shay says, if he comes out bad and throws 2 touchdowns in the first half and they're playing from behind, this could get real interesting in the second half. So, I mean, we see teams do it every year. Usually it doesn't work out very well for the teams that are coming in rusty. But luckily he's got the great supporting cast. I think that the 49ers are going to be fine. I think that they win this game. I do not think that they covered that spread. And I think it's going to be a much lower score than the 50.5 over under that it says here, just because of the defenses, and you know, a mixture of that Purdy being rusty and that Niners defense doing what the Niners defense can do. I think I'm going to bet the under on the 50.5, and I say that the Packers cover the spread, but they lose the game outright.
Dennis, betting man right here. Come on, tell me.
One of these days.
Gosh, I did it.
I told you were going to call me Dennis.
Just call him the fantasy genius. It's right there. Then you're not lying. He's the fantasy genius.
Fantasy genius.
All right,
Give me
so
your input.
I agree and disagree with Justin here. I agree that these bye weeks, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's good for you, it's rest. But you see a lot of these motivated teams, these teams that are on a roll, slow down out of a bye week, as opposed to, you know, the teams who need that bye week to get rested, to, you know, get in on a right track, such as the Steelers. You know, they come out of the bye week great, stuff like that. So I'm worried about San Fran. Not worried enough to the point where I think they're going to lose this game. I still think San Fran's going to win. But my suggestion to Green Bay is if you win the coin toss, take the ball, score first, score early, make San Fran play from behind. I think Green Bay is just a little too young for this San Fran team to lose to. I think they're going to be great and they'll be fine for the future, you know, next couple of years. But I think San Fran handles business here. I like the over though.
Now, to that point, though, if they are able to win this game in the fashion that you're saying, it's because of the ball management. It's because of that time clock management, right? And they've got Aaron Jones, a healthy Aaron Jones, who's playing really well right now. So it is still possible. Like there's still a path here to see this number 1 seed go down. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if it happened by any means. So but the way that you're describing it is exactly what they need to happen, which is exactly what they needed to win last week. And it's exactly what happened. So, I mean, it's there.
See, thus fantasy genius.
Fantasy Dennis.
Fantasy Dennis.
So usually if you get behind on a team and stuff like that, you can't run the ball. So that takes the run game out of the contention. But when you got McCaffrey, who is also involved in the passing game and can tear it up just as much as he would in the running game, does that really truly affect the 49ers if they fall behind, George?
No. Christian McCaffrey is by far and away the best running back in the NFL. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. Them not playing a lot of their players last week, or not last week, but the week before for week 18 was pivotal for the 49ers. They had to get Trent Williams an opportunity to rest because he is the key really to that whole offense. He's the best offensive lineman in the entire NFL. When he's not playing, he didn't play during that stretch where the 49ers lost 3 games in a row. It was key to get him back. He is the blindside protector for Purdy. He typically has the best pass rush going against him on the left side. It's absolutely pivotal for him to come back. Christian McCaffrey was dealing with a calf injury, and they wanted some time to get Eric Armstead back, which is also important for what the 49ers want to do. Getting the bye week was extremely important. They needed it to get healthy. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to show why they are the most complete team in the entire NFL. The Packers was a great story, but what the Packers do really, really good is a weakness against Dallas. Like Dallas just didn't handle the running game for the 49ers. They never have. Look at Aaron Jones' history against the Cowboys. He torches them every single time he plays. The 49ers haven't given up a 100-yard rusher all season. I don't expect that to continue this weekend.
All right. Let's hop into Sunday's game. Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit's Lion logo is grit. Big win at home last week versus the Rams. Lions are set to take another win at home. Huge for the city of Detroit and the franchise. Tampa Bay Bucks are making another run for a Super Bowl again. Only difference is Brady's not the quarterback. Baker Mayfield is playing at a great level, and Mike Evans is loving every moment of it. What does Baker and the Bucks need to do to stop the Lions? Lions are favored -6, over and under 49.5. Jim.
So in this game, the Buccaneers, they've been fun to watch this year. In the last 7 weeks, teams started bracketing Mike Evans. He's been held to fewer than 70 or fewer yards in 6 of the last 7 games. Now, they've still gotten it done. But remember, in week 17 and 18, they had 2 must-win games. They played the Saints. They didn't score a single point until the game was out of hand in the fourth quarter, 2 garbage touchdowns. Week 18, they played the Panthers. Must-win game. They didn't score a single touchdown at all. 3 field goals, 9 points. Now, they did great against a Philly team that didn't show up. Now, the Lions are not a great defense. Understand that. Their outside corners are a weakness. They played this team in week 6, so they saw them. They have film on them, know what they want to do. I imagine the coaching staff's going to play a too-high shell, let Baker Mayfield try to work underneath, and the more he has to throw, the more the mistakes will come. And the other thing is that pass rush. Aiden Hutchinson did not do well in that first game against Luke Gadecki, but he has been on fire, and at home they've been on fire with that pass rush. So for the Bucs to win, they're going to have to somehow find a way to win downfield, which you typically could beat Detroit there, and they're going to have to win with their outside receivers. But again, I think Detroit's going to take that from the other side of the ball. The problem for Tampa is Tampa will blitz all day. That's Todd Bowles' DNA. The problem is the automatic answers the Lions have. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 15 targets, 12 catches in the last game, beats the blitz every time. Jahmyr Gibbs missed that game. You know, when they saw that film, they're going to get screens to him. Jonah Jackson, their guard, missed that game. That's going to be a big boost for them. Ultimately, Tampa is not a good team. They are not going to play on the road against a team they're a Super Bowl contender. And this is where the Lions show that they are a strong team, and I think they put away the Bucs without little effort.
All right. I love that. I love that very much. Justin.
Yeah, I'll pretty much keep it short and sweet here. I feel like the Lions are going to handle business here better than the 1 seeds are going to handle business. I don't think it'll be that close. And I love Baker Mayfield. And the guys in my home league know that every single year, if he's not been drafted yet, I'm going to take him in the last round just so that he doesn't go undrafted. I love the grit. I love the passion. I love the guy. I might drop him after week 1, but I'm going to draft him so that he doesn't go undrafted. But it doesn't matter how much you love a guy. If you're a betting man, you're going to lay down money here. I think the Lions covered the 6. And as far as the over-under, I know it seems dangerous because we're teetering on that 50-point line right there at 49.5. But I think both offenses get it going at some point in the game, and we see a lot of scoring in this game. So I'm going to go with the over here, even though I have the Lions winning by more than 6.
Mike Evans has to love this matchup and everything. David, your input on this?
I think if I'm going with any of the receivers over there, it's going to be K-Dot and actually the tight end. However, I agree with everybody else here with Justin. I think the Lions, the city feels the pressure. They feel the hype. They believe, and they're ready to do this. They have too many weapons for Tampa Bay's defense to possibly contain all of them. I think the Lions win this one comfortably. I'm also a Baker fan. He was my sleeper quarterback in all my fantasy leagues that I got in the last round, and I'm glad I did. But I'm going with the Lions here.
George.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions as well. It's a great story. Unlike the wild card round, I really don't have very many upsets. Matter of fact, I don't think I have any upsets in the divisional round. I think all the home teams, all the higher seed teams are going to win. I expect the Lions to just steamroll the Bucs. The Bucs great run defense, but they can definitely be beat in the pass. And if they decide that they're going to blitz Jared Goff, he's got 2 quick outlet passes, as Jim mentioned, in both Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Plus, you got Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the background or the backfield. The splits with Jared Goff when he's at home versus on the road is huge. And last time I checked, this game is in Detroit. We'll have to find out how Tampa Bay is going to get acclimate to the weather down there, but or up there, excuse me. But I don't know if anybody's seen that. There was a video where a reporter asked the Tampa Bay coach about how he's going to get his team acclimated to the weather in Detroit, and the coach was like, "The game's in a dome. It's inside. Like, we'll be outside for 20 seconds as we travel from the bus inside." It was fantastic. But yeah, but so yeah, I'm going with the Lions here. I think that they're going to win this one comfortably, especially if they get ahead of the Bucs by a touchdown or 2, the game will be over. The Bucs cannot come back.
Now, I bet against the Lions last week because Rams had all that momentum. I'm not doing that this week and everything, so I'm definitely taking the Lions too. Last game of the week, Kansas City at Buffalo Bills. Hey, we've seen this matchup before. These games are always shootouts. This year, maybe not. Both teams have struggled in certain areas of the game this year. It's the second lowest over and under out of all these games and everything. Will we get the game that we are used to seeing? Bills minus 2.5. Over and under is 45.5. Jim.
I'm going to give my analysis, and unfortunately, I got family matters to attend to, but it's been exciting to be here. But in this game, so the one injury on offense for the Bills is Gabe Davis, who missed his second game with a PCL knee injury. And look, he may have had a lot of goose eggs this year, but he is the one player that they use to stretch the defense. They really have nobody else in that role. And the Chiefs have been an outstanding defense. And of course, Steve Spagnuolo knows this offensive run. They just played them late up after they were using James Cook in a more versatile role. So with Davis out, the defense could press in a little bit more. They could pay a little extra attention to James Cook. Cook will still be fine here, but it's going to be a little tougher. Now, the other side, the defensive injuries for the Bills are a real problem. Their playmaking linebacker, Terrell Bernard, he is missed the entire week of practice. He had an ankle injury. He was x-rayed on Monday. They won't rule him out, but he hasn't practiced. He ain't playing. His backup, Balin Spector, is out. Andy Reid is going to pick on that linebacker spot. They're going to make it the mark. And the other injury, Christian Benford, the corner. Now, you might see him listed on a depth chart as a backup. They play nickel as a base. He plays a full-time role. This is a big loss to a team that was without Tre'Davious White, a team that lost Matt Milano earlier in the season. Andy Reid's going to have the opportunity to pick on the backup players. We saw Pittsburgh when they started having players drop in that game, and there were more players out in that game by the second half, but they were just picking on him, moving the ball. Other side of the ball, look, the Chiefs, like I said, they'll have enough to take advantage of those injuries. The Bills, meanwhile, it's not a good matchup for them. This is a coin flip game. I do think the Chiefs sneak it out barely.
Nice. Hey, Jim, I know you got family things to take care of. Once again, tell us a little bit about before you head out, sir.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate being here. It was a wonderful time hanging with you guys, talking football, just best part of the day here. You could catch my work at RotoWire if you want a free trial to RotoWire. We cover all sports. Our baseball is off the charts amazing. You can go to rotowire.com/Jim. No credit card needed. Gets you a couple days of access at least. You can see what we're all about. We've got that. I'll be on the SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Channel 1 to 3 Eastern, Saturday and Sunday. And if you want my free notes, like 30-something pages of notes on these 4 playoff games, go to my X profile at Jim Coventry NFL. You'll see pinned to the profile. The note will tell you to like and retweet the message about the notes, and I'll DM you a link to those notes, and you'll be able to utilize those for your gambling, football enjoyment, or whatnot. Again, thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Jim, no, thank
you,
for
Jim,
being here, part of it. So once again, we'll let you get to your family, sir, and enjoy the weekend games.
Thank you. Good luck to all.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you, Jim.
Guys, once again, look, we had a great guest on. Look, great analogy, great info that he's given us. Justin, let's go ahead and continue where we left off with the 40. I apologize.
Buffalo and KC.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So
I'm
just
starstruck right now.
hey, I don't blame you, man. That was a great get. Just as the weather is really bad in Detroit, it's also going to be really bad in Buffalo. Only this time we can actually talk about it. Here's the thing about that bad weather in Buffalo, though. Both teams we saw last week can play in this kind of weather. So I'm not so sure that the weather provides such a huge advantage towards one guy or one team or another. I'm sorry, I was reading that comment from Jerry about, he solid dude. We appreciate him coming on for sure. We appreciate the comments, Jerry, and everybody else in the comments. But I don't think this weather gives a huge advantage to either team necessarily. The home field advantage may help just a little bit because those Buffalo fans are still going to come out. They're still going to scream. They're still going to be loud. But I think I'm going to give the edge here to the team with the playoff. I don't know, the playoff cojones, I guess, if you want to say, like the guys that have the most experience in the playoffs here. Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid especially, I think is the big advantage here. Just as Jim said, if there's any weaknesses on that defense, he's going to find it and exploit it. And then it's up to the players, to make it happen on the field. But I think around playoff time and the fact that I'm leaning pretty heavily that this may be Travis Kelce's last season as well. Now that Jason is gone, could you imagine how awesome it would be for both of them to go out together and then get enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame together and probably introduce each other in the Hall of Fame? So that's kind of, because I think they're both first ballot in my opinion. So it's going to be fun to watch that ride through the playoffs. He's got a lot to play for. So even though Kelce's had a rough season so far, I think he picks it up here. So give me, let me go back and look at the, so if the Bills are getting 2.5, then definitely give me KC on the spread because I think KC's going to win it outright. And then on that over and under, I'm going to go under because of the weather and because I think both people will step it up just enough. So keep me on the under on that 45.5.
Yeah, so you had a great short on Kelce retiring with the Eagles and everything, and that was the one comment that I made in there is this a sign of Travis Kelce right behind him and the brothers retiring together and stuff like that? So I think it would be a great story. They're both kind of at that point and everything. Look, they got things going on in their lives outside of this. They got their own little show that they do on a weekly basis and everything. So I think it would be a great opportunity. Mr. Fantasy Genius, give me your take on this game.
Well, first off, if Kelce does retire and they put them both in the Hall of Fame first ballot, I think it's more about the story than first ballot. Offensive linemen, unfortunately, usually don't get in first ballot. I've seen several stats throughout the week of things Jason Kelce's done, and don't get me wrong, he's he's definitely a Hall of Famer. but there are offensive linemen from the past who have done better, had more awards, did it longer, and weren't first ballot Hall of Famers. But the NFL does like their soap operas and their stories. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kelsey, if Travis goes, then they put them in together. As far as this game goes, I think it's going to be the same thing for Buffalo or for Kansas City as last week. They picked on an injured, beat up Miami Dolphins team. I think they're going to do the same thing here. It's going to be a little bit tougher because Buffalo is used to the cold and used to the weather. So Buffalo could eke it out. And this also might just be me being butthurt that Buffalo took out my Steelers last week. But I'm leaning slightly to Kansas City. I just think that Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and that defense this year, as opposed to the offense, can get it done.
And I firmly believe it might be because of that. You might have a little butthurt feelings there. So George?
Oh, you want to talk about butthurt feelings? Man, you're asking me to pick either the Bills or the team that eliminated my Dolphins last week. Like, can these two teams tie? They both get eliminated, and the Ravens get a free shot to the Super Bowl. I mean, honestly, that's what I would like to see happen. Unfortunately, we all know that will never happen because you can't tie in the playoffs. So if you remember the last time these two teams played, the Buffalo won the game. It was 17-20, but the lateral from Kelsey to Tony was called back because of an offsides penalty. And listen, it was the right call. He was definitely offsides. It's also a play that happened prior to that week at least a couple hundred times throughout the season that was never called. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't have thrown the flag. He was clearly offsides. But I'm just pointing out that, it's a play that happens at least 100 times during the season, and they don't ever call it. And then at that moment, they called it. So I'm going to go with Kansas City here. Besides the fact that Buffalo is all beat up, there's no way on God's green earth I can ever root or pick the Bills to win anything. So 100% completely biased. I'm going to go with Kansas City.
All right. Now, what are the odds that penalty gets called in this game? Would you be willing to take a chance putting some money on the same call?
They need to make that a prop bet. Will there be a wide receiver who lines up offsides and there be a flag called? If that was a prop bet, I would take the over at if the prop bet is at half, I'll take the over on that.
Kind of like a half a sack, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, as far as the game, I'm praying this is a shootout like we've seen the past couple seasons and everything and stuff like that. I agree. The weather is going to be a big factor and stuff, but I would love to see a shootout like we always seen, where it's coming down, going back and forth and everything. I need it for my Olista titles playoff run. Might have a few players in there if you get what I'm saying.
I got you.
So, yeah, look, I'm gonna actually take the over, but I am picking the Bills to win it. They cover the spread they beat them by 3, so it's gonna be by a field goal in this game. So, with that being said, Justin, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to get rid of the guy who picked the Bills to win. I told you I'm 100% biased, and he was the only one on the panel who picked the Bills, so I had to get rid of Rich.
Well, I got to stick with all my player picks and everything too. So it is what it is. Justin, do you want to give us rivals?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, Rival is the newest evolution in fantasy sports betting, and I notice I didn't say in sports betting or in fantasy sports. It's literally fantasy sports betting. You're betting on fantasy football games or fantasy football players outright, or bingo cards that project different things that could happen throughout the games. Like, say your quarterback throws 2 touchdown passes in the second quarter. Well, if the quarterback you chose throws 2 touchdown passes in the second quarter, you fill in that square that's usually like B6. Instead, it's that achievement, and then you try to score a bingo. Anyway. If you want to learn more about the different aspects of gambling on Rival Fantasy, Understand that just because football season's kind of coming to an end here, that doesn't mean that you have to stop betting, because they also have baseball coming up. They've got basketball right now. So they do NBA, they do MLB. We've got a new fantasy show that's starting here in the next couple of weeks for Major League Baseball. For those of you that like baseball, we've heard you guys tell us that you want a baseball show. We've listened to you, and here we go. Especially some of the Patreons that have been kind of chattering in our ears about wanting a baseball show. We finally got it. We found some guys that are passionate enough about baseball. And it's going to be a good thing. But anyway, that's joinrival.com/title tribe. And your first deposit of up to $200 will be matched by Rival, plus an additional $25 to throw in your pot, just for using that link right there, joinrival.com/title tribe.
And you did mention our Patreon. Look, for a few dollars a month, maybe a little bit more and everything, come join our Patreon.com at Toilets to Titles. Look, we give giveaways constantly. We want to make sure we're taking care of our title tribe and everything, and this is a great way to be a part of it and everything. It's for us to give back to you guys, but on the same token, help the team out in the few dollars that you'll be throwing in and everything. So, with that, toiletstitles.com, where we have all our videos, articles, and all of our NFL and fantasy content. All right, guys. Coaching. A lot of coaching stuff going on. Mike McCarthy to stay with the head coach for Dallas. Dennis, was you shocked on that?
Yeah, I'm a little shocked. Just because, I mean, I agree that they should keep him. I agree. You don't win 12, 13 games a year and get rid of your coach. I think that they just need some minor tweaks, some minor adjustments. But Dallas, because of the market that Dallas is in, and because of how Dallas is viewed as, well, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people are saying Dolphins are now America's team, but the Dolphins are viewed that way, or the Cowboys are viewed that way traditionally, and they're in the spotlight a lot. So they want to win. There's higher expectations there than, say, at Houston, where D'Amico would have been given a little bit longer if he didn't do what he's doing this year to get it together. So I'm a little surprised that they're keeping him. I'm also watching the Dan Quinn situation because I've seen a lot of players, particularly Micah Parsons, saying if Dan leaves, I leave. And he's interviewing all over the place. And I'd like to see if those players actually force their way out if he leaves.
I don't know if it goes that route and everything. Look, a lot of people are going to talk. I mean, it's the same thing with Max Crosby saying if Antonio Pierce leaves, he's going to leave. It. Look, when you're a player, their kind of caliber and everything, you're going to feel obligated to speak freely and everything and stuff like that. When it comes down to it and everything, when you get your new coaches in and stuff like that, next thing you know, you're supporting that new coach that's coming in. It's very rare that you've even seen. I mean, have we ever seen that happen before?
Yeah, not at the professional level that I can remember. Not in recent memory, at the very least. I know, obviously, in college football, when you see a guy like Saban move on, you see players hit the transfer portal, but obviously a totally different element, a totally different game down there. Those players just may not be making as much side money under the table without Saban there. So.
All right, so
they don't have to do under the table no more. They got the NIL money now.
Yeah, they found ways to launder the payments.
Well, one reason why, I think one thing, a lot of people have been talking about McCarthy coming back, but I think the biggest reason why is because of all the candidates that are out there right now still interviewing for jobs and everything, and they made such a quick decision on sticking with McCarthy. George, do you kind of feel that that was the right move?
Yeah, I never thought Dallas was going to get rid of Mike McCarthy, to be honest. As the head coach there, he's got a record of 42-25, excuse me. They've got 3 straight seasons of 12 wins. So it's not like he's been coaching bad. He's been a winner during the regular season, and during the playoffs, he's got their last playoff victory as well. It was with him as their head coach. Now, ultimately, the goal and the expectations in Dallas is clearly, make it to the playoffs, make it a deep run. It didn't happen, but it's not like it was a bad coaching job and they didn't make the playoffs and they only won 6 games. Like, no, they 12-5 again, made the playoffs. Once you get to the playoffs, any given Sunday, anything can happen. Yeah, they ran into a buzzsaw that was a really, really good team, the Lions, and they lost. But it's, I didn't think it was bad enough to the point where they would fire the coach.
All right. So, like I said, a lot of the big noise of why he got brought back and everything is because of Belichick being out there. Did they even bring Belichick in for an interview? Because I know he's having his second interview with the Atlanta Falcons. Justin, by Monday, is Belichick the new coach for the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, I hope so, because they also don't have the talent for him to win there either. So that would be wonderful. Honestly, yeah, they do have a talented team, and Arthur Smith just didn't know how to use them. So I'm being a bit facetious there, but yeah, no, it's looking more and more likely, and that's probably going to be where he lands, and I'm okay with that. Get him as far away from the AFC as possible. Because, like I said, as much as I hate the guy for his cheating antics, he's still winning because of it. And, so you don't want him in the AFC if you're an AFC fan. Cousins could go to the Falcons. I haven't heard that one yet, but that's I could definitely see that. They have been wanting to make a QB change in Minnesota for some time, even though Cousins continues to play well. I don't get it, but I kind of wanted to compare this comment right here to the Cowboys one, because I know Sirianni is not on our list to talk about today, and you guys. But you had to expect it with me that I was going to want to bring it up, because I've constantly been on Sirianni's ass all season about his inability to coach football players. So here's the big difference between the 12-win Cowboys and the 11-win Eagles, and the reason why you don't really want to go away from a coach that's won that many games in a typical situation. But in this case, the coach is the reason why they've lost the games. Like with the Cowboys, it wasn't necessarily always the head coach. And I read a comment about from Donovan McNabb saying that Howie Roseman, the GM, is actually the one that's on the hot seat, in his opinion. That's ridiculous. You got guys like AJ Brown that are talking about maybe wanting to leave, and you see, and maybe he's not talking about it. Maybe it's just rumors because he's obviously unhappy. A lot of the players are unhappy, and it's because of the coach. So I feel like if they just make this one big move, they get rid of Sirianni, they get in a coach that the players actually like and the players actually respect, I should say. You don't have to like your coach. You just have to respect them to win football games. You get in an actual coach that the players can respect. AJ Brown will stay. The talent will stay. The talent that Roseman has gotten in there will stay, and they'll be a good football team again. So ultimately, I think that's what has to happen. A couple of days ago, it was announced that Sirianni was going to meet with the owner about the rumors of him being on the hot seat. We still haven't gotten word from that meeting yet, or if that meeting has even happened yet. But I would reach out to the owners and tell them you kind of need to get going on this, because this coaching carousel that's going around, you're going to miss out on some of the best options if you don't hurry up and get in on this quick. So can him ASAP. And Jerry, I believe that will be enough to keep AJ Brown in.
David, obviously we started with the Falcons, ended with the Eagles. I'm going to let you start with the Eagles and end with the Falcons.
I got nothing to say about the Eagles. Get rid of Nick Sirianni. Move on.
Hey, all right.
I'd rather almost. I mean, I'm a Steelers fan, so I'd rather talk about how they're now talking about, instead of Mike Tomlin possibly leaving, them extending him. I'm sorry, but as a Steelers fan, I'm sick of the mediocrity. We're another one of those teams that we're used to winning, and now, yeah, he's having winning seasons, but he's keeping us from ever drafting a top quarterback. And the Steelers aren't a team to trade up far enough for a top quarterback, and that's what we need. We need a top quarterback. As far as Atlanta goes, I think Belichick, if they're smart and he does go there, they need to draft a quarterback in the first round. They need a top quarterback to fix that team. I did just see a mock that had them taking Michael Penix. I think that's a little early for him, but I liked Michael Penix most of the season as the Heisman Trophy winner. So I think it would be a great fit for him there. But we all know Belichick, and he likes game managers, not gunslingers. So,
All right. So, George, we have Mike Tomlin up for grabs. We have Sirianni up for grabs. And we have Coach Belichick. Would you like to talk about any three of these or another coach?
Well, so let me start with A.J. Brown and the Eagles and Sirianni. First off, I agree. Fire Sirianni. He needs to go. And it's just because he's got the most punchable face in the NFL. Secondly, A.J. Brown's not going – they're not trading A.J. Brown, and he can't get out of his contract in 2024. He's got a dead cap hit of $42.5 million. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be an Eagle next year. The Eagles are not eating that cap hit. I'm sorry, it's not happening. He has an out after 2024, the year 2025, and that only carries a $30.8 million dead hit cap hit for the Eagles. He just re-signed this contract a couple years ago. He's not going anywhere anytime soon for Philadelphia. The cap hit in the dead money is just way too much. As far as Mike Tomlin goes in the Steelers, I hope you guys fire him. I really hope you do. And the reason why is because you guys don't deserve him, to be brutally honest. You got a coach who's never had a losing season.
Didn't go the direction I thought it was going.
Yeah.
This guy has never had a losing season. He's a proven winner in the NFL. He's got the Super Bowl rings to prove it. And you guys are talking about, oh, I want to fire him because we're used to winning. He wins every damn year. He just was in the playoffs this year. Coming from the Dolphins' perspective where, we haven't won a playoff game since I was a seaman inside of my father. Like, it's ridiculous that you would actually want to fire this coach who not only wins playoff games and championships for you, but does it on a routine basis where he's never had a losing season. Like, I want you guys to fire him because you don't deserve him. You deserve to feel what it's like to go 2-15, 3-14, just to feel that pain and misery so you can say, oh, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have fired this Hall of Fame coach who's done nothing but win while here. Like, you're spoiled rotten, and Dolphins fans and teams like Rich and the Raiders and Justin and the Colts don't want to hear the Steelers fans boo-hooing about their coach who does nothing but win every damn year, okay? We don't. We just don't. As for I'm on a roll. You're going to have to wait. Now, as for the Eagles, the Falcons, the other birds, I really like the thought of Bill Belichick landing there with them. That's a really good team. They had a very good defense this year. They have very good offensive pieces. If you don't think Bill Belichick will feed Bijan Robinson, you've in mind. If you don't think he'll build the offense around Kyle Pitts, I mean, he's only used some guy named Rob Gronkowski and made him probably one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. And then you look at Drake London. Yeah, Bill Belichick can use those guys. He's a student of the game. He's forgotten more about offense and defense than any of us will ever know. I would, if I'm Philadelphia, I'm offering this man as much money as he wants, and I'm going to give it to him. The only thing I would not do, I would not hire him to be the GM. Bill, you can coach, but you cannot be the GM because we've seen your history as being the GM, and frankly, you suck at being the GM. Justin? You may go, sir. Thank you.
Oh, no, he said no. I love it. You nailed it. But I just only was going to comment because I thought you were done after roping me and Colts fans in with that whole coaching carousel thing with Mike Tomlin. And one thing I will say about Tomlin, and I've said this the last few seasons, it seems to me that his teams typically start off really good. And then after a few big injuries, he doesn't seem to know how to coach up the second-tier players on the team, and that's why they don't get over that hump. And that's why at the end of the season they usually falter. Now, this year was a little bit different. I noticed they did start to win more games towards the end of the season. I don't monitor the team as closely as I probably should because it's the Steelers and I don't really like them. No offense, but but I feel like that was partly because that defense started to get a little healthier again towards the end of the season. So he's only as good as his players on the field are going to be. I don't think that he could take a guy with potential and coach him up to make him great. So getting those mediocre quarterbacks makes it even harder on him, just like you were saying, George, because I don't think that he's able to coach up players to make them better than they already are. His coaching style is limited to the talent that he's given from the GM.
Here's my take on that. Listen, it's not so much that we don't like winning. Obviously, we like winning. Everybody likes winning. But this is a win now league. This is, and the more it's becoming more like coaches don't coach as long as Tomlin and Harbaugh and Belichick. For Christ's sakes, the Panthers just got rid of a guy after his first season, halfway through the season.
He also got fired from the Colts last season, mid-season.
Yeah. So, I mean, teams want that we're here for one thing and one thing only, Super Bowls. And the Steelers, again, just like Dallas, we're at that tier where we have a bunch of those. We're a team that's considered supposed to be a top-tier team who should be contending, and being a mid-tier team that's lucky to get to the playoffs. That's what the Steelers fans are sick of, because we're used to that. And I understand that's spoiled. That I agree 100%. And I think Tomlin's great for what he's done with us. I think he's just kind of plateaued.
All right. So we'll go ahead and jump. I'm going to go ahead and start this next subject off. Antonio Pierce, they removed the interim coach from his tag, and he is now the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, we had a passionate thing going on in our Patreon chat this morning when it was announced and stuff like that. A lot of people think it's a great move. Look, I agree. It's a great move, but for me, it's an emotional move. And here's the reason why, okay? Look, players go out of the way and stuff like that for a coach and stuff like that, especially after a situation that they've been in. Yes, they went 5-4, okay? They had a good run. Pierce had that team, especially defense, had that defense going in the right direction. He came from the defensive side as far as the coaching aspect of it. I'm all right with it. I want to see him succeed, but I just feel like, when was the last time we seen an interim coach take over for a team and succeed and stuff like that? As a Raiders fan, I am tired of having to go through this over and over again and everything. And look, a lot of the Raiders fans out there are 100% on board and stuff like that. And I will be 100% on board if I see good results, but it just never tends to go the right way when you bring an interim coach in as the head coach and everything. I think it's only happened one time, and that was Garrett with the Cowboys. I can't think of another interim coach that's taken over and had some success and everything. So look, I love the move for Pierce. Look, he is a Raiders coach. I mean, you can look at him, the way he was with the players on the sideline. But this is the one thing too that I always go back and look at. Anytime you watch a Raiders game with Pierce as the interim coach, when you looked at the sideline, to me, I felt like he wasn't a head coach. He was a motivator. He was walking around the lines, motivating his players. Look, I get it. Maybe it worked and stuff like that. But he had all the help behind him, making calls and everything and stuff like that. There were some questionable calls. Look, I get it, going on 4th down and stuff like that. You got nothing to lose and everything in the position he was in and everything. But I can't go back and not look at the fact that you came out of a bye week and couldn't put up any points against Minnesota Vikings and stuff like that. After a bye week, you had time to prep for it and stuff like that. Give me one more second, George. If it was Harbaugh or a more well-experienced coach and stuff like that, I felt like the team would have been better prepared and stuff like that. Now, obviously, this was his first time as a head coach and everything, and learning the processes of a bye week, what you got to do to get that team ready for the next week. Look, it didn't work out. And yes, I get it. Not even a week after that, they put up 63 points on the Chargers. I get all that. Look, I'm 100% behind this decision, but it's an emotional decision to me because I felt like this decision was made because of the players and the fans backing Antonio Pierce 100%, with not truly going through the fact of giving opportunity to interview other coaches. I know they brought a few in. I know they were talking about Harbaugh. I don't even know if they had a chance to even talk to Harbaugh before this decision was made. George?
My question to you as a Raiders fan is, if not Antonio Pierce, who? Who would you rather have them come in and hire the coach that was realistic? because Bill Belichick's not coming through that door. Jim Harbaugh is not walking through that Raiders door. It's absolutely not happening. So what coach is out there that the players would be like, yes, this is the guy that we want to play for? That's not Antonio Pierce. Can you give me any names? Because I can't think of anybody.
I can't. I wanted Harbaugh, to be honest with you. I really did, and stuff like that. Clock Dodgers below. Look,
Yeah.
I wish he was on to kind of give his two
Raiders
input.
fan.
Like I said, I'm fine with the decision. I'm just. It could be an emotional decision based off of everything that went and how everything went. And I don't know. I have to see it on the. I'm just tired of not being able to, because you know what? If this doesn't work out, guess what's happening? We're going through the same cycle again for another 3-4 years and everything. So I don't know. Like I said, I love what Antonio Pierce did, and look, I'm back and I'm 100% supporting it, but I'm worried at the same time.
Here's the good thing: the players wanted to play for Antonio Pierce. We just got done talking about the Eagles, where the Eagles players really don't want to play for Sirianni. There's different levels to coaching. Having a coach who is a player's coach, where you have the stars on the team vouching, yes, this is the guy we want. Like, that's going to help attract free agents. That's going to make, the draft, the rookies that come in, they're not going to be questioning, half the team in the locker room really doesn't support this guy or is behind the head coach. So you don't have to worry about that toxicity in the locker room, because Pierce is everything that is right with the Raiders. When you think of the Raiders, like, Antonio Pierce is what you would want for that coaching position. I honestly believe it's a great hire. I think give him 3 years and let's revisit this. But I think the biggest issue there is the quarterback. And it's the reason they got rid of their old coach is because he didn't really support the team. He wanted to come in and build the Patriots way. And then when Antonio Pierce was talking to the team about how the Giants went out and beat the Patriots, like, he got pulled aside by the head coach and said, "Don't you ever disrespect the Patriots like that again." Are you freaking kidding me? Did the old coach, and I don't even remember his name, forget about the Tuck Rule game where the Raiders lost on a technicality when it was a fumble, but because it was Tom Brady, they said, no, we're not going to allow that to be a fumble? I mean, that's ridiculous. The last time I could think of a coach who was an interim, that when he was an interim coach and then he went to another team and then he became a head coach, was Dan Campbell. And I'm going to give this shout out to Neil here for that. He was the interim head coach for the Dolphins. I wish the Dolphins would have kept him as the head coach on for that time, because he was our tight end coach. And the players absolutely loved him. And he went on to, where did he go? He went on to the Saints, I believe. And then from there, he became the head coach in Detroit. He's a former player, so he's going to get everything that's going on and what these players are going through. I think it's a great hire by the Raiders. I mean, there was nobody better coming through that door.
Josh McDaniels was that coach you were trying to think of, but I'm looking at the Raiders roster right now, and I don't like, you got players. You got a few players here and there. Yep. I don't see anything that stands out and just absolutely wows me outside of your top probably 4 guys. Like, most teams, most playoff teams that have a real shot at making the playoffs have those same 4 or 5 guys, and then they have a whole bunch of really good role players that you can just you know that they're going to do well. They're going to do this game. They're going to do that this game. Like a consistent 4 catches for 40 yards and 2 first downs or something like that. You guys don't have that on this roster, and you were still right at the bubble of making the playoffs. So I guess the reason I'm building all that up is because, just like George said, you don't know what you're going to get with the next coach. You don't know that chemistry. You don't know that balance. So you bring in a new coach. Maybe you take a step back. Maybe you take a step forward. But you took a big step forward with this roster with Antonio Pierce. And this roster is not a playoff roster and still almost made the playoffs. Give him a season or two. where he can start getting in some of his own players. He can start working with the GM that's not Mike Mayock, who wasn't even really that good at picking players out of the draft before he became a GM, and see what they can do with good actual players on the field. And just like he said, they're willing to play for the guy. They respect the guy. So I'll tell you this much. I built all that up because I just want to say that if Antonio Pierce, we know he's going to be the coach next year. If Sirianni comes back as the coach of the Eagles next year, the Raiders will win more football games than the Eagles will.
David.
Yeah, I believe that.
I think you're right that it is an emotional hire. That doesn't mean it's the wrong hire. I will say, though, that I hope he succeeds. I really do, because if teams are going to start hiring their biggest cheerleader to be their head cheerleader to be their head coach, I could be the next coach for the Steelers. Like I cheerlead the hell out of them. Let's go. I'm ready.
How many times have you submitted that application?
More than I'm going to have been on this show. I have written the Steelers multiple times throughout the years. I don't know if it ever goes anywhere.
It goes into file 13.
Like I said, I am excited for it. Like I said, I'm 100. Look, I've seen it firsthand and stuff like that as far as what happened, and I love the way that season ended and everything. It just, I'm just, man. When Justin, you understand. George, you understand.
Yep.
You want to see your team succeed and stuff like that,
Yep.
and it's hard to see a start over after a start over after a start over and everything. And
Here's the other thing you got to think of, Rich. If they would have gone with somebody else other than Antonio Pierce, right? That roster up, because you can't have the leaders on that team, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, those guys come out and say, hey, we support Antonio Pierce. That's who we want for head coach. And then them bring somebody else other than him back in as the head coach. Like that right there would kill the locker room. It absolutely would. And instead of keeping your key players, and instead of taking your stars and adding to that, you're getting rid of them and you're doing a complete tear down and build up. So I mean, yeah, they kind of forced the hand of the Raiders by saying this is who we want, but at the same time, the opposite end of that is they have a guy in house. They know his coaching style. The players respect him. The players want to come in and fight for him. And yeah, he might be their biggest cheerleader, but football, last I checked, is a very emotional game. And you want a guy on the sideline who is pumping you up and who is getting you excited and getting you to feel some other way than you currently would be feeling if you're down a score or two. You throw an interception, oh no, that could just come in and you hang your head. And he's like, no, come on, man, pick your head up. It's okay. It's one play. We'll get him on the next one. It's all right. You're going to come back. You'll bounce back from this. Like, that's the kind of coaching stuff that you need. And him being a former player, he understands that.
And that, just to put that conversation into context between Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce was actually a player on that Giants team that beat his Patriots. So that was probably part of the reason why there was such rift there in that conversation. So I hate Josh McDaniels. Don't get me wrong. I didn't even want him to be the Colts head coach whenever they hired him, and then he backed out and flew out the day he flew to Indianapolis, hopped right back on another plane and flew out because he changed his mind on the airplane ride. I hated him even before that. I didn't want him to be the coach. But you gotta, I can't blame him for wanting to call out Antonio Pierce a little bit for trying to throw salt in the wound on an old game that happened years ago.
I mean, when you're trying to get a win for the team that you're currently on, like it's you gotta have faith. Justin, let me ask you this real quick. And I'm sorry, Rich, I didn't mean to hijack the show, but Justin, you'll Rich, David, you'll like this question. Justin, you have to pick one to be the coach of the Colts for the next 10 years. They cannot be fired. They cannot resign. They are stuck as the coach for the next 10 years. Sirianni or Josh McDaniels.
Okay, I can answer that. The answer is I don't really care because either way, I'm just going to be a Packers fan for the next 10 years.
Great response.
I was going to follow it up with, and how long before you become a Texans fan? But I figured
I
that
really
would be too
thought you were
soon.
throwing Bill Belichick in the mix too. That also would not have been the answer.
No, I didn't want to give you a good coach.
No,
All right,
if
so
they would have
great
said
dialogue.
Belichick, I wouldn't have ever rooted for the Colts again.
The only thing I don't like about the Antonio Pierce hire, first off, I'd like to know how long of a leash he's going to have as an interim coach. You know, that it's definitely an emotional hire. I also think it sets a bad precedence to kind of listen to the players this much, let the players dictate that, because unfortunately we've seen in the league, the Steelers are a prime example of these diva players, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, throwing fits. If we start giving these players their way, we don't want to play if it's not for this coach. That sets a bad precedence for the league as far as GMs and organizations go. I like the Antonio Pierce hire. I hope he succeeds, but if he doesn't, like you said, it's another 3-4 years of stumbling, bumbling, trying to figure out what you're doing.
Nope, 100% agree. A great dialogue on all topics tonight. We're going to close out with Tulsa titles, our playoffs. How did you guys do in the first week, Justin?
On the T2T playoff league, I think I'm middle to a little bit less than middle of the road, but most of my big point getters were the guys that were, or the teams that were on bye weeks, and I have a couple that are still alive in there that were big point getters. So I still have a shot, but also that's assuming that there aren't a lot of teams ahead of me that have the same 4 teams. So we'll see.
George?
Yeah, I didn't sign up for it, so I'm probably doing very poor.
He would have 0 points right now.
I have exactly 0 points. I'm a big fan of whole numbers, 5s and 0s. I'm going to go with 0s on this one.
All right.
Yeah, I'm beating George.
I'm in second place, one behind the first place guy. So I did really well in week 1.
You know why? You're a fantasy genius.
I did get quite a bit, double digits from each of my defensive players. So that was a big help. I think I only had one person in single digits, and it was my kicker because all he did was kick extra points in that game. But yeah, otherwise I did pretty well.
I think I'm sitting around 12, so I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. With that being said, we're going to give a little insights to some players that you might want to pick this week. David, let's go ahead and start with your QB.
This one is it's a toss-up for me. I mean, I want to say Patrick Mahomes, based on what the bank or the Bills and the Chiefs, especially in the playoffs, their history together going back and forth is. And I think that Patrick Mahomes shows up and, he's the reason that they win this game. I'm just worried that it's not going to be a shootout because of that Chiefs defense being able to contain the Bills and Patrick Mahomes not having to do that much. So I'm going to go with Jared Goff. I think he's just got the best matchup out of all the quarterbacks and the teams I think he's going to win.
Pete, love you, man. Appreciate the donation. Keep on funding that Canton trip like you always do, man. And you have a good night too. George, who you taking at receiver?
Yeah, so my wide receiver, I went with Brandon Ayuk. It's amazing the split differences, for Brandon Ayuk when he's playing a team that plays man versus a team that plays zone. Green Bay plays man about 23% of the time. The rest of the time they're pretty much in a zone, and Brandon Ayuk is a zone beater. Excluding week 18 where he didn't play, he was resting. He's got 113 plus yards in 3 of his last 4 games. He's got touchdowns in 5 of his last 8 games. And in 4 of the last 5 games, he's got 7 to 9 targets. I expect San Francisco to be able to put up quite a few points against the Packers this week, especially if Jair Alexander is not playing, which let me check the injury report for them. I've got it pulled up right here. Just give me 1 second. He was limited in practice. And then he did not practice. He's got a shoulder issue and an ankle injury. So he's officially questionable for the game. So if Jair Alexander doesn't play, I really, really do like Brandon Ayuk's opportunity to put up another big game.
Justin, give me your running back.
Oh, yeah. So I'm an idiot. I was looking at the wrong playoff challenge when I talked about my middle to lower end earlier. I'm actually in 10th place in the T2T playoff challenge. So I'm doing pretty well on that one. And I did save a decent amount of good players. So, so if I go back and look at that, I'm going Rachaad White as my running back this week. Playing against Detroit, I believe that is it's a matchup that White can excel in because he also does catch the ball out of the backfield really well. And they're going to need to get him going to give them a real shot. Also, I think Tampa Bay loses this game. So since I think Tampa Bay is going to lose this game in this format, you want to try to pick players that you think are going to do well, but also lose because you can't pick a player again anyway. So I'm going with Rachaad White on this one as my running back.
All right. So Will, he had already jumped in. He plugged in Deebo Samuel at receiver, which I do like. I know George went with Ayuk. I do like Deebo in this game and everything. So both of them should have a decent game in this matchup. So I do like those both picks. Jim Coventry, who was on earlier, he made a pick at running back with James Cook. Look, James Cook has been very heavily involved the second half of the season and everything, and should pick up where he left off in this game with the Chiefs and everything. Guys, that is it for our talk tonight. Anything you guys want to end with? George, Justin.
He said
go ahead,
George.
Justin. Go ahead, Justin.
George, but David and I both were like,
Justin, go ahead.
I was just going to say on my way out the door that I'm excited to announce that we have the next Fun Day draft show coming up. Now that the NFL season's coming to an end, we do some different off-season stuff. It's still going to be very football centric, but we do have the baseball show that's starting up in a couple weeks, and we have the Fun Day draft show. I'm excited about this. You guys know I love drafting random things. Like in the past, we've randomly drafted our favorite Disney characters, our favorite professional wrestlers, a lot of different things, some food related drafts. This first draft is going to be it's either the first or second Saturday after the Super Bowl, but it's going to be, we're drafting our favorite people named whoever comes up and shows up on the show. So whatever your name is, let's say David decides to show up, then it's going to be whoever's name is David, that you like. So anybody that's a fictional character or an actual real life person, or your Uncle David or whatever, you're going to just draft your favorite Davids of all time, but not just Davids, but it's going to be everybody that's in the draft. So your favorite Davids, your favorite Riches, your favorite Georges, your favorite Justins, right on down the line. So we usually go 8 rounds. I think we might have to go 10 or 12 with this one because there's going to be a very large number of people named George.
I was going to ask if I can just draft all the Georges, like the whole draft. Just have to take every name that's George.
No, you do have to draft at least one person from each name category, and you can't draft yourself.
I mean, did you not hear the compliments that I got at the beginning of the show? I ought to be able to draft myself.
Well, you might end up with yourself because of the Wheel of Consequences, but you can't draft yourself. Yeah, and you know I'll draft you, George. You'll be my Mr. Irrelevant.
That works for me. Mr. Irrelevant's going to win the Super Bowl this year.
David.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to all the guys who are watching. I appreciate a bunch of you guys that actually jumped from Gilded over to my card breaks and have started participating in those. So I appreciate the support. And we got some squares coming up that we're going to be announcing on Tuesday for members who are following here on TU2T and join the card group. We're going to be giving away 25 of those squares for free.
Nice.
All right, and to all the Title Tribe members in the chat, Jerry, Neil, appreciate you jumping in on the chat. Pete, JC, I appreciate you being here, and just everybody that was in here. Look, great have this dialogue. We have it every day. Once again, please hit the like button, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Apple, everywhere that you can find us. Come follow us. Come hit us up at toiletstotitles.com and Patreon and Gilded is the way to go. And give us that 5-star review, right, Justin?
Absolutely. If you give us a nice, lovely 5-star review, maybe something that makes me blush or something that makes me laugh, we'll read it on the flagship show on Tuesday nights as well. And if it's really super awesome, we might even give you a free entry into the Frankenstank Listener League next season.
Well, for George, Justin, David.
Definitely show up Tuesday too. I think if I remember correctly, that's when we're going to be doing our Dynasty Startup Draft on Tuesday's show. So we got the Dynasty Rankings team's going to be coming on.
Oh, the mock draft. Yeah, this one's a mock. It's not the it's not the Dynasty IDP startup. It's a mock startup. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm tracking. Yes, we are. We're and everybody loves mocks, right? So we do have that mock on Tuesday night. So it's going to be exciting.
I believe they're still looking for people to join. To offline, not be on the show, but join the mock. So I think if you're interested, you're on Gilded, hit up Coach, hit up Justin, hit up me, Frito, whoever, and we'll get you hooked up.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
Excellent.
once again, for George, Justin, Fantasy Genius, David Dennis, and your local friend Frito Bandito. Hey, once again, we were joined by Jim Coventry. Love the fact that he was on to support us, and great knowledge that he brought with us. If you haven't had a chance, I'm pretty sure everybody follows Jim. Go out and follow Jim on X, Twitter at Jim Coventry. Look, gentleman is very knowledgeable. If you look at his notes, as George could tell you from first glance at him. Great dude. Go give him a follow. If you haven't, I'm pretty sure you're already following him. With that being said, gentlemen, great episode. Appreciate you guys very much. Toast the titles.